What's good, guys? What's good? We're going to react to another video from Sam of Somalia. He's basically going to tell you how you can find a job in Somalia, and I'm going to also chip in and give you a few recommendations of how you can also support yourself whilst you're living in Somalia. So let's hear what he's got to say.
In this video, I'm going to talk about 4 ways that you can make your living here in Somalia, the experiences that I've had with all 4 of those ways, and then at the end, I'm going to round off this video with exactly what I do here to make my living here in Somalia. Now, I would say that there's a significant demographic of us who are not really moving to Somalia expecting a pay rise. We want to come to Somalia for our values, for our ties here, and for a love that we personally have for Somalia, and for our family that live here. So I really do think that we need a video about how to do that whilst also paying the bills and putting food on the table. So I think it's best if we split this video up into 4 main parts. We'll start with jobs and then businesses, but we'll do local jobs, then online jobs, and then we'll do local businesses and online businesses. There are over 40,000 foreign people working here in Somalia, and whilst there are legitimate security concerns that are not negligible, clearly there are tens of thousands of people who are building a better life for themselves here in Somalia and actually working here. So whatever your industry, it's quite likely you will actually be able to find a role here for yourself. So I've actually seen people working in lots of different industries here. So I'll start with hospitals. I've been to a hospital a few times here, and to be honest, I've actually been really impressed with the level of healthcare here. At lots of hospitals that I go to, there are tons of multilingual doctors there. There are people who are Turkish speaking and Arabic speaking, and many of these hospitals are actually founded by...
That's actually a good idea. There's a lot of females that do a lot of course that do a lot of nursing degrees in university. With a degree like this, with a degree from the UK, which is powerful around the world, if you go back to Somalia, I think you'll get a job, especially like Sam said. There's hospitals that have been developed. They're on the up now. You can find a little job in there, work your way up, and then you get paid in dollars. You can definitely make something happen with this. But the only issue is I don't think there's a lot of females from Western countries that want to go back to home. I don't know why. I think females rely heavily on their comfort, and I think going from a Western country to Somalia, I think you will have to give up a lot of that comfort. I think that's the issue, anyways. I think that's the case. What do you guys think? Let me know.
Turks and Arabs as well. And there's tons of people from those countries working here in those hospitals. And of course, to run a functioning hospital, you need people in lots of different roles. So it's not only doctors, it's also technicians and people in other areas of the medical field. Next up, schools. In a previous video, I talked about life here and what the expenses are here. I outlined that there are actually lots of different types of schools here, including international schools that offer an international standard of education, including IGCSEs and things like that. And these schools need people who are often educated in those education systems. So for the schools here that offer IGCSEs, they are looking for people who are educated to GCSE level and in the British system. So people who want to be in the education field, there probably are opportunities for you here as well. So on top of that, I would also bring your attention to universities. There's a number of very well-respected universities here in Mogadishu that are very willing to hire staff from abroad. And in fact, when we get to the end of the video and I talk about what kind of work I've looked at here in Somalia, I'll touch a little bit more on universities and what kind of salaries they can offer as well. But in universities, if you're someone who's educated and, especially master's or PhD level, there's quite likely going to be opportunities here for you in that field as well. Of course, there are a number of NGOs that operate here in Somalia, and they're often looking for people who have good language skills, people who speak the English language well, and people who can liaise with their offices in other countries as well as their office here in Somalia. So there are most certainly jobs available in that sector as well. Now, before we move into online jobs, I very quickly just want to talk about visas. So there are work visas that are issued here, and they're typically 3, 6, or 12 months, and they will usually be taken care of by your employer, which is a good thing because they can be quite expensive. For a whole year visa, a work visa, they can be between $1,000 and $2,000. But of course, if you're an ethnic Somali yourself, you probably won't need to worry about that. It seems like ethnic Somalis, even who hold other passports, can pretty much stay here more or less unchecked as far as I can tell. Number 2. Online jobs and working remotely. So since COVID, this is something that is actually more common than you might realize, particularly if you have some level of technical skills. More or less anything that you do in an office, it is possible to do it from abroad. But something that might be more applicable to lots of you is if you're...
Yeah, this was the recommendation that I was going to give. Do you know what? Remote jobs are definitely in the up. Since COVID, the rise in remote jobs have skyrocketed. I myself at the moment will be getting a remote job starting very soon. All you need is a laptop with an internet connection, and then you can be anywhere in the world with that. Of course, there are certain restrictions that some companies place on you. However, if you're smart, if you look at ways where, you can overcome some of those obstacles, done, khalas, And imagine this. You're working, you got your laptop, you're clocking, you do your 9 to 5. As soon as you're done as soon as you clock out the shift, you can enjoy the best of the country the best the country has to offer. Say you're done at 5 o'clock. Because the sunset is around 9 o'clock, you still have the rest of the day to chill.
Might allow. There's a really useful chapter in Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek that talks about the disappearing act, about how to actually have this conversation with your manager to actually let you move abroad from a job that you actually secured and you were working on locally in the UK or in another country. So if you're disappearing act, applicable to lots of you is if you already have a job in an office, you might be surprised at the kind of remote working conditions they might allow. There's a really useful chapter in Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek that talks about the disappearing act, about how to actually have this conversation with your manager to actually let you move abroad from a job that you actually secured and you were working on locally in the UK or in another country. So if you actually look for those opportunities and you are open to them, maybe they will come to you. In fact, I was actually hired by a company that I work for now after I moved to Somalia. They actually hired me from Somalia before I even met them.
You know what you're capable of, but you're unfocused.
In person. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about jobs, both in person and online. So let's move into businesses. So that brings us to...
This is a very good idea, especially if you're someone that's got a good relationship with your manager. You know, most of the jobs that you carry out is through the computer. You don't really, you know, if you work at home, if you work from a different country, there's really no difference into the outcome of your work. I think you should be able to speak with your manager in a eloquent way, maybe set up a meeting, and then truly, you know, explain to him your desires. I think it might work, you know. Your manager might say, okay, he might even give you 6 months here, 6 months off. Do you get it? That's better than nothing. 6 months, 6 months.
The 3 in-person businesses here in Somalia. Now, it might surprise some of you, but there is actually a legitimate, quite big and growing middle class here. There are people who have extra money that they want to spend on their weekends and do fun things with their...
Yeah, he's right. You know, if you have a bit of capital saved up, you could open up a business, you know, a restaurant, a cafe. So there's some of the popular ones that a lot of expats open. And not only that, you can also do online digital businesses. For example, YouTube, TikTok. There's a guy from Hargeisa that we've reacted to. He survives on $500 a month. He makes TikTok. He makes, I don't know, he doesn't outline how much he makes directly off TikTok, but he survives from, you know, he has all his expenses paid with £500 a month. There are so many ways now in 2025. There are so many ways where you can make money, where you don't have to be relying on location. And I think the safest one every single person has the access to do is the remote job. You're secure, you receive well pay, especially when you move to Somalia. You know, the money that you make, it might be minimum wage in the UK, but if you go to Somalia, that is insane amount of wage. But anyways, guys, there are so many ways, so many ways. If you guys need help on on outlining which way suits you, just let me know. Drop a comment down below. I'll try and get back to you. And if you're someone that works in tech, you've hit the jackpot, because tech, especially software engineering and all these things, it just requires a computer. And I know so many software engineer guys or testers or whatever it is, whatever different aspects to it there are. There's so many of these guys that are living anywhere around the world that are making very good income and enjoying the, enjoying the power of the dollar or the power of the pound around the world. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Till next time, I'm out of here.